I have some good news for you. You're watching another episode of Comic Book World News Weekly, and I'm your host, AJ Kunze. Hooray! And now I have some bad news. Hooray! What I mean to say is, hooray! Okay, so the bad news. The comic book news cycle this week resembled a tumbleweed convention in the middle of the Sahara Desert. It's empty. There's fucking nothing. There's so much nothing going on this week that I even wrote a draft of the script where I talked about Archie Comics starting a new Sabrina the Teenage Witch book. Yeah, it's that slow. So instead of actual news, we have something special for you this week. I've compiled a list of the top 5 current ongoing books you should be reading. Quickly, let's go over the arbitrary rules for this list. Arbitrary rule number 1. The book must currently be ongoing. No finished series, no limited series, no graphic novels. Arbitrary rule number 2. A writer can only be represented once on this list. This prevents me from producing a 10-second video where I just say, everything written by Remender and Johnathan Hickman, and then piss off for the day. Arbitrary rule number 3. There's no rule number 3. It's a pretty simple concept, so let's stop fucking around and get to the list. The number 5 book you should be reading, East of West, written by Johnathan Hickman and drawn by Nick Dragotta. Imagine an alternate history where the Appomattox courthouse is replaced with a giant flaming ball of terrifying death from outer space. Yeah, that shit would have got you to pay attention in history class, huh? East of West tells the story of a world where a meteor crash ended the Civil War and split the US into 7 different nations. Fast forward way past us to the near future where the leaders of those nations, who call themselves the Chosen, secretly puppet the world towards an apocalypse in service of the 3 horsemen of the apocalypse. AJ, you said 3 horsemen of the apocalypse. Don't you mean 4? No, idiot, I mean 3 because the 4th horseman, Death, has gone rogue and is the hero of the story. He is portrayed as a Clint Eastwood-like cowboy figure with awesome magical Indian friends who seek vengeance against the Chosen and the rest of the horsemen. If this sounds confusing and convoluted, it's because it totally is, but the story is told with such beautiful poetic prose and cinematic art that you really don't care. The whole thing is like riding a roller coaster through a chocolate factory. Unimaginably fun, if not a little messy and probably very bad for you. The number 4 book you should be reading, American Vampire, Second Cycle, written by Scott Snyder and Raphael, I'm not even going to try to say that last name. Jesse just put it on the screen. The first cycle of American Vampire was the best thing to come out of this overly vampire-obsessed cultural phase, and no, it's not even fucking close. It works on the premise that each culture reacts to the vampire virus differently, and when exposed to the virus becomes a different breed of vampire. American vampires have the power of being brain-explodingly awesome, and they have a weakness to gold. The series focuses on 2 main characters, a hellishly awful Wild West bandit that somehow ends up being endearing as hell, and an aspiring young actress from the 1920s as they fight to deal with their immortality and try to use their super devil powers to get revenge on the monsters that turned them. The series blew the doors off the entire universe with its first 34-issue run before disappearing for a very long and painful year so writer Scott Snyder could write every other book in the entire galaxy. But it's back now, and the second half of this century-spanning epic has started out being even more terrifying, horrific, and emotional than the last. Read it. Read it, 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 read it. Ongoing book you should be reading, number 3. Hawkeye, written by Matt Fraction and drawn by David Aja. The best superhero book on the market right now is all about what a normal dude does when he's not being a superhero, which in Clint Barton's case means getting beat up. A lot. Pretty much the funniest book in the spinner rack right now, Hawkeye is all about someone the world views as being a hero, pretty much being an unheroic asshole, showing us that being a normal dude trying to save the world on a team full of superpowered god freaks will give someone a feeling of smallness. Clint Barton is flawed, and he battles to stay a hero when it's just so much easier to fall asleep on the couch with his dog. The plot of the book revolves around Clint getting tangled up in the real estate dealings of a violent tracksuit mafia organization. Throughout the book, he battles bro-spewing goons, conflicting love interests, and himself in wacky adventures that often feel like a James Bond movie starring Bill Murray. The series is never afraid to say, fuck it, and do whatever it wants. One issue is told from the point of view of Hawkeye's dog as he, yes, solves a mystery. One issue is set during Hurricane Sandy and is absolutely jam-packed with feels. Side note, Matt Fraction donated all the profits from that issue to Sandy-based charities. Matt Fraction. Coolest dude in comics. Ding! And another issue is best described as Avengers mixed with a Saturday morning cartoon starring a cast of all dogs. If that's not enough, issue 3 of Hawkeye is my single favorite issue of any comic book ever. No hyperbole. Read it. If you don't fall in love with the series, please don't forget to charge your battery because you're a soulless automaton. Ongoing book you should be reading, number 2. Black Science, written by Rick Remender with art by Matteo Scalera. If you want all the details on this book, go back and watch the first ever episode of this show where Black Science number 6 wins our inaugural book of the week, and I spend about 2.5 minutes lovingly slobbering all over the series. But if you're currently falling off a cliff and don't have enough time remaining in your life to watch a whole nother video, here's a super quick rundown. A group of scientists are forced to stick with a machine as it uncontrollably hurtles through dimensions that are more bizarre and unexpected than a David Lynch film soaked in LSD. Alien worlds filled with frog people and cyborg Native American Indians are all mixed together with betrayals, affairs, full and vivid character work, and twists that are unexpected but never cheap. This is a series that embraces everything that make comic books comic books. Missing out on black science is damn near a sin. Like sodomy. And finally, the ongoing book you should be reading, number 1. Saga, written by Brian K. Vaughan with art by Fiona Staple. Oh, it's so good. Saga is Lord of the Rings meets Star Wars, and yes, it's as good as it sounds. It's chocolate and peanut butter. It's gold and platinum. It's sex and more sex. So a planet full of technologically advanced people with wings is at war with a moon full of magic-wielding people with horns. A man from the moon falls in love with a woman from the planet, and the story is told through the eyes of their love child in a style that is akin to a fairy tale. Full of bounty hunters, alien races, forests where rocket ships grow like trees, ghosts, giant spider people, assassin St. Bernards, wizards, romance, comedy, tragedy. The best dialogue in comics and ninja grandma, Saga is never dull, never disappointing, and consistently the best book out there. And by the time it's done, it might be the best book there ever was. So don't get left behind. If you're not reading this book, fucking correct yourself. Whew. Okay, done. Hopefully there's some actual news next week, and we can get back to the Comic Book World News Weekly you all love so much. Thank you again for stopping by. Tell a friend about us and spread the gospel that it is my silly, silly nonsense. Follow me, Cody, and this channel on Twitter. Hit the comments below and tell me what books should have been on this list, and talk about how great Saga is. Come back next week and every week until the end of time for more Comic Book World News Weekly. Now get out of here and go read comics.